On the night of my birthday party, my two older sisters let the adopted son, Leo, pass himself off as me, the true heir. Victoria and Chloe said, "I'm their only brother," he sneered. "You're just a piece of trash born on the wrong side of the tracks." Moments later, they ganged up on me, shoving me from the third-floor balcony. The fall resulted in brain death. After my death, a malicious smear campaign claimed I was having an affair with some B-list actor, and the scandal went viral. My father, hounded by the online mob, died of a heart attack broken by grief. My mother withered away soon after, and the adopted son smoothly inherited everything. I blinked and I was back on the night of my birthday party. My fist connected with Leo Stone's face, a satisfying crack echoing as I kicked him to the ground. When did my birthday party become your stage to run your mouth? The guests, just beginning to arrive, froze in shock, stunned by my sudden violence. In my previous life, with our parents always busy, I had repeatedly tolerated his transgressions to avoid worrying them. Having died once, I knew damn well that tolerance doesn't earn you mercy. I grabbed the collar of Leo's designer jacket and started dragging him toward the door. The housekeeper, seeing this, rushed over and shoved me away, shielding Leo like a guard dog. "How dare you bully the young master? Just wait until Miss Victoria and Miss Chloe get here. They'll make you regret this." I let out a cold laugh and slapped the old woman across her face. "There is only one son in the Vance family. Since when was there another, young master? You traitorous leech," I spat. "Get the hell out of my house." The housekeeper's mouth trembled, but she said nothing more, though her eyes burned with defiance. Leo, clutching his swelling cheek, shrieked, "You bastard, how dare you hit me? I'm telling Victoria. She'll throw you out." The guests began to whisper amongst themselves. I heard Mr. Vance only took in the adopted kid for his real son's sake. Without the real son, he'd still be rotting in some slum. What right does an adopted kid have to challenge the real heir? 5 years ago, I'd found Leo behind the school, bruised and bleeding. My heart went out to him. I brought him home, heard his story, and begged my father to adopt him, to give him a new name and a new life. I never imagined that within a year, my two sisters would be completely captivated by him. They started taking him to every exclusive event. When they found out he wanted to be an actor, they leveraged the Vance family's resources to pave his way into the industry, even stealing my own creative projects just to help him get a foothold in Hollywood. He had completely forgotten who he really was. Leo's friend, Kevin Moss, heard the commotion and charged out, shoving me to the floor. "You're just a worthless screw-up. You should be grateful for the charity Leo shows you, and now you dare to touch him." He loomed over me. "I'm warning you. If you say one more disrespectful word to him, I'll have someone break your legs." My fist tightened. I got up from the floor, and without a word, I snatched a bottle of champagne off a nearby table and emptied it over Kevin's head. "I'm the only heir to the Vance family," I said, my voice dangerously low. "Who the hell are you to lay a hand on me?" Kevin glanced at Leo, who had a flash of panic in his eyes before shouting, "What are you talking about? Everyone knows I'm the real young master of this family. Tell me, who here has even seen your face before today?" My father was a blunt, straightforward man who made enemies on his way to the top. He worried that if I was in the public eye, someone might try to harm me, so he kept my identity completely under wraps. Even the paparazzi had been warned by Dad's lawyers to never publish my picture. But Leo, thanks to my sister's promotion over the past 2 years, had made countless public appearances. Most people just assumed he was the true heir. I had no desire to waste my breath on him. I turned to the security guard standing nearby. "Throw him out." The guard hesitated, looking back and forth between us. "Sir, maybe you should step away for a moment. Let's wait for Miss Vance to get here to handle this." My eyes narrowed. "Are you telling me you can't hear me?" I said coldly. "Fine. In that case, you don't have to work here anymore." The guard's face paled. "Please, sir, give me a break. I'm just doing my job." He turned to Leo, pleading for help. Leo pulled the guard behind him and looked at me with smug arrogance. "You have no respect for me. I'm having someone get Victoria and Chloe right now. We'll see if you have the authority to kick anyone out." The housekeeper, seeing her chance, scurried forward to suck up. "Young master, I already sent for them." She shot me a disdainful look. "Just wait until Miss Vance arrives. Let's see you try to bully anyone then." I crossed my arms, calmly watching their triumphant faces. They thought calling my sisters would save them? Little did they know, an hour ago, I had already sent a car to the old estate to bring my grandmother. Besides my father, Grandma was the highest authority in this family. Just then, a crisp, cold voice cut through the room. "Who is bullying my brother?" It was Victoria, my eldest sister. She strode in wearing a sharp power suit and black stilettos. She scanned the room, and the guests fell silent. Leo rushed to her side, whispering, "Victoria, there's no place for me in this house." Caleb, he glanced at me, his voice trailing off. Victoria rubbed his head with pity, then turned and slapped me across the face. The blow was so unexpected, I just stood there stunned. "You worthless brat. What gives you the right to bully Leo? All you ever do is stir up trouble and complain. You're completely useless." I rubbed my cheek, my voice turning to ice. A piece of trash like him? I wouldn't stoop low enough to compete with him. My second sister, Chloe, had also arrived. Hearing my words, she lunged at me, grabbing my hair and trying to force me to my knees. "You need to pick a time and place to have your tantrums. At home, Leo lets you get away with it, but this is his birthday party. Can't you leave him alone for one night? You are absolutely vicious. Apologize to him now." I couldn't believe my own sisters would be so mindlessly devoted to Leo in public. That was it. I was done holding back for their sake. I twisted my arm free, grabbing Chloe's wrist and shoving her away. "I'd like to ask Dad when my birthday party became this imposter's." She stared at me, her face a mask of disbelief that I'd fought back. Leo moved to support Chloe. "Dad had Victoria and Chloe plan this for me a month ago," he said to me. "He's out of the country on business right now. You'd better not bother him." I laughed mockingly. "Is that so? Funny, I don't recall your birthday being the same day as mine." A crack appeared in Leo's composure before he quickly masked it, falling silent. At that moment, a commotion came from the entrance. Looking up, I saw my fiancée, Sophia Prescott. She was holding a bouquet of flowers, walking gracefully toward us. A gentle smile formed on my face as I watched her, until she walked right past me and went to Leo. "Happy birthday, Leo." Leo shot me a triumphant, provocative look as he accepted the red roses from her hands. My expression froze. So even Sophia had been won over by him. It made sense. For the past year, she'd always been flaking on our dates, ignoring my texts. The signs were there all along. I had just been deceiving myself. Sophia, her smile radiant, pulled a small gift box from her purse and handed it to Leo. "Leo, it's a ring I designed. I've already had someone pick out a date. Let's get married next month, okay?" I recognized the ring instantly. It was the one we had designed together. And now she was giving it to a fraud. A fist clenched around my heart, and a white-hot rage surged through me. Leo glanced in my direction, feigning concern. But won't that upset him? Sophia's face hardened as she turned to me. "Caleb, Leo and I are in love. The Vance family fortune will be his one day. You'd better get smart and walk away." Chloe chimed in from the side. "Exactly. Leo is the future heir of the Vance family. And you're nothing. You're not the star of this party. I suggest you leave now, before I have someone carry you out." I cracked my knuckles. I slapped her across the face. Then, as everyone watched in shock, I kicked Leo in the stomach and followed up with a series of punches. Leo had grown soft over the years, while Dad had made me learn boxing since I was a kid. He couldn't handle my fists at all. Sophia, seeing blood trickle from the corner of Leo's mouth, finally snapped out of it and ordered several bodyguards to pull me off. She gently touched Leo's swollen face. "Leo, are you okay?" she asked, her voice full of concern. Then she turned to me, her eyes filled with venom. "You hurt Leo. I'll make you pay for that 100 times over." She signaled for the bodyguards to force me to the ground. I was strong, but I was no match for 4 of them. These men were built like tanks. Leaning on her for support, Leo got to his feet. My 2 sisters were already fussing over him, checking for injuries. "Leo, just tell us how you want to get even. We're on your side," Chloe said furiously. A vicious glint appeared in Leo's eyes. He walked over to me. He lifted his foot and brought it down on my face. The pain was so intense I couldn't even scream. For a moment, I thought my cheekbone had shattered. Then he pulled his foot back. He leaned down, whispering in my ear, "What do you have to fight me with? Everyone on your side is now on mine. Everything you have is mine. From now on, you'll be nothing but scum at the bottom of the barrel." I spit a mouthful of bloody saliva in his face. "You just wait. When my dad gets back, he'll destroy you." He didn't even flinch. He wiped his face and sneered. "I'm about to be a Prescott's son-in-law. Everything they have will be mine too. Once your dad finds out I married her, he'll definitely be on my side." He stood up and walked back to Sophia, looking at her with deep affection. "Sophia, my love, just throw him out," Leo said. "Today is my birthday, the day we declared our love. I don't want it tainted by this filth." Sophia nodded and had the bodyguards haul me to my feet. "Throw him out. Beat him to death with clubs. If anything happens, it's on me." I struggled wildly, stomping hard on a bodyguard's foot. As he yelped in pain, I broke free. But before I could even catch my breath, Leo started to sob quietly. He's so violent. If we just throw him out and rough him up, what if he comes back for revenge? I'm scared he'll come back and try to take the inheritance from me. Don't be afraid. I won't let him have the chance to take anything from you. 3 voices spoke at once. A terrible premonition washed over me. The next second, I saw Victoria walking toward me, her face a dark mask. She grabbed a wine glass from a table and smashed it over my head. Chloe snatched a handful of the broken shards from the floor and tried to shove them into my mouth. Pain sent my body into convulsions, and I couldn't breathe. I looked desperately toward my fiancée, Sophia, for help, but she just stared back coldly before planting her stiletto heel on my face. Her gaze drifted lower. Her eyes were filled with pure malice. A man who can't produce an heir has no right to be one. My expression changed to one of sheer terror, but the bodyguards held me fast. I couldn't move an inch. Just as her heel was about to come down with vicious force, a wooden cane flew through the air and struck her squarely on the leg. Who dares touch my grandson? My grandmother, Matilda Vance, strode into the room, looking surprisingly agile. Behind her, a dozen imposing bodyguards followed. Everyone stared at the old woman in shock, especially my sisters, who never expected her to show up. Grandma's bodyguards pulled me to safety. She wiped tears from her eyes, her voice shaking with rage. Which son of a bitch dared to scar my grandson's face? Her sharp gaze fell on Victoria and Chloe. She picked up her cane and brought it down hard on their bodies. You 2 fools. Who told you to bully my grandson? Victoria clutched her bruised arm. Grandma, he's the one who's in the wrong. Why are you hitting us? Grandma struck her other arm with even more force. What could my grandson possibly do wrong? Your only job in this family is to look after him, and you team up with an outsider to attack him. When my grandmother was young, raising my father on her own while navigating a dozen different hustles, no one dared to cross her. Her fiery temper and ruthless methods were legendary. Even now, in her old age, she was a force to be reckoned with, her strength still astonishing. Victoria winced in pain and took a step back. He's a lost cause, a worthless screw-up, she shouted defiantly. Why should we waste our time taking care of him? Do you know how many of his messes I've had to clean up over the years? Just a few days ago, he crashed his Ferrari, and I had to fly back from a business trip to make it go away. Grandma, I don't understand why someone like him is even allowed to be in this family. But I had never done any of those things she mentioned. The one who crashed the car was Leo. Because of his lies, they all believed it was me. In my past life, I hadn't explained, worry my sisters would get in trouble. Now, why the hell should I take the fall for someone else? I pulled out my phone and brought up the security footage. The person driving this car was never me. The screen clearly showed Leo, a cigarette hanging from his lips, getting into the driver's seat. When Grandma saw it, she erupted in fury, her glare turning on Leo. You dare frame my grandson? You're asking for it. Leo grew up on the streets. He couldn't withstand my grandmother's overpowering presence. He immediately shrank back a few steps. Grandma, please, let me explain. I did drive the car, but he put me up to it. He's just jealous that everyone loves me more, and he wants to ruin me. Grandma wasn't buying any of it. She raised her cane, ready to bring it down on Leo's head. Leo instinctively tried to pull Victoria in front of him as a shield. A look of shock crossed Victoria's face, but she still stepped in front of Leo. The cane struck her shoulder with a sickening crack that everyone in the room heard. She stood her ground, unflinching, her eyes red as she met Grandma's gaze. Grandma, why are you so biased? Every time he gets into trouble, you take it out on us. You're just an old-fashioned traditionalist, favoring the boy over the girls. Grandma's eyes widened, her face flushing with rage. She raised her hand and slapped Victoria across the face. Blood trickled from the corner of my sister's mouth. I quickly grabbed Grandma's arm. I didn't want her to be slandered with that accusation. The times they were punished as children weren't because of sexism. It was because they'd lost me or let me fall into the lake. Now, in their version of the story, it was proof of Grandma's bias. Sure enough, as soon as Victoria spoke, the guests started whispering. What century are we in? I can't believe that kind of old-world thinking still exists. You'd think there was a throne to inherit. I know what Victoria Vance is capable of. She's closed some huge deals. I can't believe she's being sabotaged by her own family. I've got tomorrow's headline. Matriarch of the Vance Corporation is an old-school sexist. Hearing their words stung. If Grandma was really biased, she would have never let Victoria join the corporation, nor would she have let Chloe enter the entertainment industry. Grandma was about to unleash a tirade on the crowd, but I stopped her. I swept my gaze over everyone, then turned to Victoria, my face cold. For an adopted stray, you're willing to throw blame on me and slander Grandma as a sexist. Since you don't seem to understand what that means, I'll show you. I'm telling Dad that starting tomorrow, I'm taking over operations at Vance Corp. You and Chloe are done making public appearances. Victoria froze, staring at me in disbelief. Leo seized the moment to step forward. How dare you? Vance Corp will be mine one day. I'm the favored child here. A few guests who were close to Leo spoke up for him. Has the old lady been brainwashed by this kid? How can she let an outsider steal what belongs to the young master? Exactly. The real heir hasn't even said anything, and this charity case is already trying to take what belongs to his sisters. The nerve! I bet the kid has his ways of getting to the old woman, if you know what I mean. The man smirked knowingly. Grandma grabbed a bottle of champagne and smashed it on the floor in front of the speakers. My biological grandson's name is Caleb Vance. Some people have been playing a role for so long they've forgotten who they are. As for the few of you who are just running your mouths, I've noted who you are. From this day forward, Vance Corp will have no business with you. The faces of those who had been sneering just moments ago turned pale. Even the onlookers felt a chill and quickly backed away, afraid of getting caught in the crossfire. Chloe was furious. Grandma, you don't get to make decisions for Vance Corp. Caleb has no ability and no character. He'll only tarnish our family's name. I've asked Dad about it before in passing. He said his successor must be exceptionally capable in every area. As I see it, only Leo has that kind of talent. He is the only heir. At Chloe's words, Leo straightened his back, puffing out his chest. Grandma had reached her limit. She hit Chloe several times with the cane. What kind of bullshit is that? When I was hustling on the streets, you were just a cell? I met more people than you've eaten hot dinners. Leo can't even begin to compare to my grandson. Chloe remained defiant. You're just being irrational. Vance Corp goes to the most capable. It would never go to this loser. Grandma was so enraged her chest heaved violently, and she nearly lost her balance. I quickly steadied her, helping her catch her breath. Once she recovered, she gestured with her hand, and her bodyguard seized Leo. Throw this shameless creature out. The Vance family has no need for a troublemaker like him. Victoria and Chloe both shielded Leo, blocking the bodyguards. Caleb, you bastard, you manipulator. Chloe screamed. You think just because Grandma is on your side, Vance Corp is yours? Dream on. Who said my son is dreaming? It was Dad. He looked travel-worn, with several of his own security guard behind him. Seeing him, Victoria and Chloe's eyes lit up. Chloe ran over and took his arm, whining and complaining. Dad, what are you doing back? Grandma's on her sexist kick again. Look, she beat me and Victoria. She showed him the bruises on her arm, squeezing out a few tears for effect. My father's face was grim. He shook her hand off. You expect me to stay away while you two torment my son? A moment ago, when they had declared Leo the heir, I had recorded it on my phone and sent it directly to him. Now, Dad was furious. He first checked on me, and seeing I wasn't seriously hurt, he seemed to relax slightly. Then, his gaze turned icy as he looked at Leo, and then at Victoria. I told you to take good care of your brother. Instead, you team up with an outsider to bully him. Victoria felt no remorse. Dad, Caleb was the one making a scene at Leo's birthday party. I was just teaching him a lesson, trying to keep him from embarrassing our family. Dad let out a heavy sigh and slapped her across the face. This is Caleb's birthday party. When Leo changed his legal documents, he got on his knees and begged me to change his birthday to the same day as Caleb's. He called it a tribute, a way to thank Caleb for his new life. And now you use it as a weapon against my son. Victoria was stunned. But weren't you talking about Leo? You praise him all the time. Last month, you gave him that antique painting worth $10 million. Was that all a lie? My father's gaze, sharp as eyes, fixed on Leo. Who gave you permission to touch the things I bought for my son? The truth crashed down on everyone in the room. Leo had not only usurped my position, but had also been secretly stealing what was mine. Dad took out his phone and had his assistant call the police. That painting is valued at $10 million. For a theft of that magnitude, you can spend the rest of your life in prison. This time, Victoria didn't speak up for Leo. She just watched him silently, as if searching his face for an answer. But Chloe, completely oblivious to the gravity of the situation, was still devoted to him. Hearing that Dad was sending Leo to prison, she rushed over and shoved me to the ground. Dad, it must be his fault. He's the one who orchestrated this, she shrieked. Leo is so innocent. He doesn't know anything. If Caleb hadn't given him the painting and let him misunderstand, none of this would have happened. I stood up, brushing off my suit. I couldn't believe Chloe would abandon all logic just to make excuses for Leo. Chloe, You need evidence to make accusations. I never even saw that painting. Or did you intercept it and give it to Leo yourself? Furious, Chloe lunged, her long red nails clawing at my face. 5 bleeding scratches appeared on my cheek, stark and shocking. You bastard, Caleb. When we were kids, Grandma gave you the best of everything first. I'm only a year older than you, but I had to give up everything for you. So what if I gave it to Leo? He's not like you. He's kind and thoughtful, and he always looks out for me. My eyes narrowed. I retaliated in kind, grabbing her hair and dragging her in front of Grandma. I kicked the back of her knees, forcing her to kneel. In my past life, she had played a part in pushing me off that balcony. I never understood why my own sister hated me with such venom. Now I did. She was a thankless viper. Grandma looked at her, her eyes welling with tears. I never knew you thought of me that way. As a child, you were overweight. You were over 150 pounds by the time you were 8. I controlled what you ate for your health. What was wrong with that? Hearing this, Chloe felt no remorse. Her anger only grew. Kids have fast metabolisms. So what if I was a little heavy? I would have slimmed down in high school. Stop making excuses for your favoritism. You just bullied me and Victoria because we're girls. A loud thud cut her off. Dad had kicked her to the ground. It was the first time I had ever seen him so enraged. Sprawled on the floor, Chloe abandoned all pretense of dignity, thrashing and wailing. You're all ganging up on me. If this isn't sexism, what is? I'll expose all of you for your disgusting behavior. Victoria frowned and tried to pull her up, but she wouldn't listen, her cries growing louder. Dad had his assistant bring him a file and threw it at Chloe. Years ago, my wife's soft heart led her to find you two in a hospital dumpster. She raised you as her own, and this is how you repay her? Like a pair of ungrateful animals. You're adults now. The Vance family has no further obligation to raise you. Tomorrow, I'm having my lawyer draft the papers. From that day on, you two sisters will have no connection to this family. Dad's words stopped Chloe's tantrum cold. Victoria hastily opened the file. Inside were the official paternity tests and adoption records. The seals and signatures were all real. The air went out of Victoria like a deflating balloon, and she sank to her knees. Chloe, however, refused to accept reality. This isn't real. You forged it to cover up your own sexism. Victoria, not wanting to humiliate herself further, slapped her sister. It's real, Chloe. Will you just stop it? Chloe still wouldn't believe it. She was a star, a celebrated actress. Her entire position in Hollywood was built on her identity as a Vance. Without it, in an industry that worshipped power, she was finished. No, I don't believe it. Dad, there are reporters here. How can you tell such a lie? Dad had no more patience for her. He signaled his bodyguards, and they dragged her out. Victoria stood up, gave our father a deep bow, and said, I will tender my resignation myself tomorrow. Then, with her back ramrod straight, she walked away. Without his 2 protectors, Leo looked momentarily lost, but it only lasted a second before his arrogant mask was back in place. He tightened his grip on Sophia's hand and shot me a triumphant smile before walking up to Dad. Dad, today was just a misunderstanding. I never expected it to turn out like this. But don't worry, Sophia and I set a wedding date. I'll retire from acting and dedicate myself to taking over Victoria's responsibilities. Before Dad could even respond, I stepped forward and punched him. The man was human garbage. I must have been blind to ever bring him home from the streets. After I hit him, he put on a frightened expression. Dad, don't blame Caleb. He has a bad temper and hits me like this often. I'm used to it. He thought his usual tricks would still work, but he forgot one thing. My father was notoriously protective of his son. When I was little, a young nanny accidentally nicked my finger while cutting my nails, and he fired her on the spot. Since then, there was an unwritten rule in the house. Everyone had to treat me with extreme care. It was only after Victoria took over managing the household that many of the staff were replaced. I had put up with it to keep the peace, which led everyone to believe I was an easy target. My dad didn't even let him finish. He had his security guards give Leo a thorough beating. Sophia immediately threw herself in front of him. Mr. Vance, no matter what, Leo saved my life. Years ago, if he hadn't offered himself as a hostage in my place, I would have been killed. For the sake of my family, the Prescotts, I'm asking you to let him go. Hearing this, I stared at Sophia in astonishment. I was the one who saved her. When did it become Leo? A flicker of guilt crossed Leo's eyes. He clung to Sophia's clothes, holding on to her like she was a savior. My dad snorted. Who the hell do you think you are, that I should give you face? If it weren't for my son's interest in you, the Prescotts would have been history long ago. My son saved you, And you dare mistake your rescuer for someone else? The Prescotts have some nerve. Leo's face turned deathly pale. Sophia, let's go. Don't listen to him, Sophia looked stunned. What do you mean? The one who saved me. Wasn't it Leo? I looked at Sophia's disbelieving face, let out a cold laugh, and tore open my shirt to reveal the scar on my chest. The scar from that day. Do you really think a nobody like him would have had what it takes to trade places with you as a hostage? In that moment, the light in Sophia's eyes seemed to shatter. She tried to speak, but I slapped her across the face and coldly ordered the bodyguards to throw her out too. After that drama, the birthday party continued. In front of everyone, my father formally introduced me to his world. The same people who had sneered at me earlier were now falling over themselves to get my attention. I saw it all. The ones whose words had been the most venomous were escorted out by Dad, their ties to our family permanently severed. Not only that, but the household staff was completely replaced. When the housekeeper and driver were fired, they wept and begged on their knees, cursing Leo's name. I got tired of listening and had security drag them away. After the party, the next day, the top 10 trending topics online were all about my family. Some reporters had recorded the entire incident. Leo had hoped to use his fan base to make a comeback, but the video branded him a toxic celebrity. His fans turned on him, ruthlessly canceling him. The Vance family had built its fortune in the entertainment industry and was a leader in the field. After this, no one dared to work with Leo again. He was facing a mountain of breach of contract lawsuits. Furthermore, I produced evidence for the projects he had stolen from me and had our family lawyers file suit. Unable to pay his debts, he fled to Mexico overnight. He had siphoned a good amount of money from the Vance family over the past 5 years, enough to live well on his own down there. But thinking of what happened in my past life, I wasn't about to let him have it easy. I arranged for him to be robbed in Mexico, leaving him penniless. He was forced to live on the streets, but life as a homeless person in Mexico, especially for an outsider like him, was brutal. After getting beaten in a fight with other vagrants over scraps of food, he vanished. I was never able to find any trace of him again. As for his friend, Kevin Moss, I had previously asked Dad to give him a job as a security guard at the company out of pity for Leo. Now, after firing him, Dad had him blacklisted from ever setting foot in New York City again. He was condemned to a life on the fringes, with no hope of ever rising above it. Seeing their fates brought me a deep sense of satisfaction. I spent a week with my grandmother. Then, as my father arranged, I started at the company, working my way up from the bottom. A month after I started, Sophia came to beg me again. The Prescott family business was being crushed and was on the verge of bankruptcy. I got out of my car, and she immediately ran up, holding the ring she had once given to Leo. Caleb, I was out of my mind. I was deceived by that monster, Leo. Please, for the sake of us growing up together, for the sake of how much I loved you, please forgive me this one time. My face was a mask of ice. I took the ring and threw it into the street. Sophia, for a person like you, if it wasn't Leo Stone, it would have been some other opportunist. You fall in love with whoever saves you? Honestly, that kind of love is incredibly cheap. You're not worthy of me. Sophia's shoulders trembled. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Without a second glance, I walked into the company building. After that day, Sophia never came looking for me again. The next time I heard news of my sisters, Victoria and Chloe, was a month later. It was then I learned that Victoria didn't have much real talent. Most of the deals she had closed were won through ruthless, often unethical means. Without the protection of the Vance name, she quickly faced retaliation. I wasn't entirely sure where she ended up, or if she was even alive. As for Chloe, she had always been self-indulgent. Without her family's safety net, she continued her extravagant lifestyle and quickly fell deep into debt. To pay it off, she was forced to become someone's mistress and ended up getting her face ruined by the man's wife. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. In my last life, they had coldly watched me suffer. In this life, I had no reason to feel sorry for them. The days passed. I spent 2 full years working in the lower ranks of the company before Dad finally promoted me to general manager. On my first day, a few colleagues I was on good terms with wanted to throw me a celebratory dinner. They chose a rustic farm-to-table restaurant in the countryside outside the city. As the car headed out of the city, my eyelids started twitching. Having faced more than my share of danger in my life, I immediately sensed something was wrong. Sure enough, a beat-up van came speeding down the wrong side of the road, heading straight for me. My reflexes kicked in. I yanked the steering wheel hard, and my car slammed into a telephone pole. The van, carried by its own momentum, flipped onto its side on the roadside. After shaking off the initial shock, I immediately called my father and shared my location with him. Then I dialed 911. As I was giving the operator my location, An axe smashed through my driver's side window. Shards of glass sliced my cheek. I grabbed the collapsible baton I always kept in the car, threw open the door, and knocked my attacker back. Once I was out of the car, I saw his face. It was Leo. His hair was a tangled mess, his face covered in a thick beard. He was more muscular than before, like a feral beast that had emerged from the wilderness. I didn't have time to wonder how he had ended up like this or why he was back in the country. He swung the axe again, aiming straight for my head. I dodged, striking his arm with the baton. He seemed to feel no pain, didn't even flinch, and just kept swinging, the axe blade whistling towards my neck. I blocked it with the baton, but the axe was deflected, and its edge sliced into my arm. Blood instantly soaked the ground. With death so close, adrenaline surged through me, and I felt no pain either. I knew I couldn't keep fighting him head on. As he raised the axe from my arm, I swung the baton hard, right between his legs. He grunted in pain, dropping the axe. I knew this was my chance. I swung the baton again, aiming for a fatal blow. But to my shock, he recovered after only a few seconds of pain. He blocked my attack with his bare hands, then kicked me square in the chest. I flew back several feet and couldn't get up. He spit on the ground, his eyes glowing with a bloodthirsty light. "You piece of shit. If it wasn't for you, I never would have ended up like this. Do you have any idea what I've been through these past 2 years?" I gasped for breath, playing along to buy time. "What happened?" He looked down at me, a cruel smile playing on his lips. "Don't try to be clever. You're dead today." He kicked me in the stomach again, then stomped hard on my wounded arm. Pain seared through me, and I lost all ability to move. I forced myself to stay calm, saying nothing, just watching him. Suddenly, he seemed in no hurry to kill me. He pulled a cigarette from his pocket and lit it, taking a leisurely drag. He blew out a plume of smoke, rambling about whatever came to mind. When he mentioned something painful, he would emphasize it by grinding his heel into my wound. "I'm not going to let you die quickly. I'm going to make you suffer everything I've suffered these last 2 years." From his fragmented words, I pieced together the story. He had been trafficked and sold to a group of mercenaries in a South American rainforest. Because of his relatively clean looks, he became an object for their release. He endured the humiliation for a year, finally learning how to survive in that hell. One night, after being assaulted, he killed a lone mercenary, stole his gear, and began life as an outlaw. After countless hardships, he ran into Chloe, who had escaped from traffickers in the same lawless region near the Darien Gap. They found common cause and made their way back to the States, united in their goal, to get revenge on me. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I offered him a better idea. "Leo, honestly, instead of killing me, you should be thinking about money. You're not the same person you were. You could demand a huge ransom for my family, take the money, and go live whatever life you want in Southeast Asia." My words clearly made him hesitate. Just then, a phone on his belt rang. I saw the caller ID, Chloe. I seized the opportunity, lunging up and head-butting him in the nose. As he reeled back in pain, I went for his groin again. But this time he was ready, brutally shoving me several feet away. My attack had enraged him. He picked up the axe and charged at me. Just then, a small red dot appeared on his forehead. There was a sharp crack, the sound of metal meeting flesh and bone, and he collapsed to the ground in a heap. Blood pooled around his head. He'd been shot clean through the skull. My father rushed over and helped me up. At the same time, police officers surrounded the scene. After I'd called him, he had immediately contacted his connections in law enforcement and chartered a helicopter to a nearby location, for which his team had moved in on foot. As always, I knew I could trust my father to come and save me. I passed out after being loaded into the ambulance. When I woke up, a day had passed. My grandmother was sitting by my bed, looking older and more frail than ever. When she saw I was awake, she nearly burst into tears, launching into a stream of curses against Leo, wishing she could desecrate his corpse. I learned from her that my father had already dealt with the mole inside the company. Leo was as dead as could be, and Chloe had been sentenced to life in prison. I spent half a month recovering in the hospital, refusing all visitors. After this incident, my father hired a master martial artist to train me and assigned even more bodyguards to my detail. I recovered quickly and threw myself back into the company. 2 years later, I married the daughter of a Miami real estate tycoon, a match of equal standing. The Vance family business expanded overseas, growing larger and more powerful. And I lived a happy life with a son and a daughter of my own. End.